G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle, and I know that many of you want to hear a long-winded rant about this thing. Oddly enough, I can see a twisted logic in releasing an Imperial Fist Praetor if he was at least in Cataphractii armor, as it would make a lot more sense in a unit of Huskarls, as they wouldn't, lose their heavy bonus for zero appreciable gain. So a Cataphractii Terminator would work well, even if it is about the fifth cherry and some chocolate syrup on top of the Imperial Fist cake. The miniature thus becomes a strange choice when we have a repose of an existing miniature for a faction already bloated with choices in the face of, as you all know and appreciate, 5 legions who have 0 Praetors, the Iron Hands, Iron Warriors, World Eaters, Salamanders and Raven Guard, 4 legions with 0 physical special characters, the Iron Warriors, Iron Hands, Salamanders, Raven Guard. Some might argue that they have some specialist units, so they aren't that far behind, and honestly, some legions have almost as much stuff as the Imperial Fist. Blood Angels, for example, have the same number of special units. And they have their own Leviathan. Where's the outrage there? Sure, they have half the number of special characters and a third of the consoles, but let's not let a tiresome little thing like the facts get in the way of a shit defense of an unwanted product. No, I don't want to talk about the Imperial Fist Terminator. I've said everything that needs to be said in past videos and in that introductory segment. What I want to talk about is who is ultimately responsible, and it is you, the consumer. You are faced with a choice each and every day, a choice which will affect Games Workshop's decision-making process. The choice of whether or not you choose to consume the product. For many of you, that decision is simply yes. There is no thought beyond Games Workshop is great, I love all of their stuff and I must have it. It makes me happy and I enjoy it. And if that's how you think, I am probably not the channel for you, as I can say and do nothing that you cannot undo with the simple action of buying their products. The company is a greed-driven machine, churning out each product at a faster and faster rate, like Kaiju in Pacific Rim. Reset the clock is a phrase I now utter when I see the next system box set, and the interval between them has become so tight that 40k 10th edition wasn't even on the shelves yet when Epic was announced. What do we, the wide community consuming the product, do? Why, we simply buy more product. We as a community could all just stop buying any and all Heresy products until we get Plastic Assault Marines, and I guarantee you, if they haven't sold any Heresy kits in a month, they would perk up a bit at Games Workshop headquarters and notice. You better believe they'd post the kit you want, and they'd push that kit right up the chain. Instead, what we have here is a problem. We have a lack of a customer-company healthy relationship. The relationship is one where they create the product that we demand, but instead, the inverse is true. They create the product they feel like, and the gaming community is so thirsty that we will lap it up regardless of how much we actually need the product, and it's incredibly unhealthy. To showcase this point, ask yourself, how many people have you seen buy a new kit that's released just because it's cool, only to abandon it to the pile of shame or sell it for some magic beans when the rent is due? I'm pretty sure that more of you know someone who did it, or will at least own up to doing it yourselves that you're comfortable with. Due to this skewed relationship, we've therefore found ourselves in a situation where the company almost makes passion projects rather than sound customer-focused decisions. And Games Workshop are not alone in this. Many companies fall into the trap of, we want to make this, fans be damned. In most industries, however, that approach is a surefire way to achieve bankruptcy, as you're not doing what the market dictates. But when you have a monolith IP with a rabid and devoted fanbase who'll accept the decisions, well, you get a Games Workshop. In other media like Star Wars, we saw the fallout from the sequel trilogy manifest itself in the Solo box office. Essentially, Lucasfilm did their dash, not giving the fans what they wanted, so people didn't want to buy the next product. Suddenly, all those Solo Star Wars films that we were promised, and those awful roadmaps, they just dried up. That's the consequence of not delivering what people want. Eventually, they vote with their wallets. So, this is my challenge to you, the viewer. If you want to try and elicit some change, if you don't feel like simping for the giant corporation and explaining and rationalizing away all of their actions with phrases like, oh, well, the Raven Guard don't sell well, so, it's understandable why Games Workshop won't give them stuff, whilst conveniently ignoring how the Iron Warriors, arguably one of the most popular legions, also get nothing at all, well, if you want to change the company, here is what you do. Don't buy the models. Not just this model, that's a solid start, but don't buy any models. The company has made it clear that they are prioritizing the wrong kits at the wrong time in 2.0. They're not FAQing, they're not adjusting the balance of the game system, and generally ignoring all constructive feedback. So why do they deserve your money? Give them the old Bud Light treatment if you want change, or if you don't have the strength of character to not swipe your credit card, don't complain. Apart from the books and a few kits, I've basically bought nothing in 2.0, as I have a massive back catalogue of kits in storage, which I can pull from. I bought most of these in 2013 when exchange rates were fantastic, and it's tided me over pretty well. But if I want something now, I can 3D print it, or I can ask Uncle Mao for a hand if it's otherwise unavailable. Looking at you, Praevian Consul Narek Drager. So, what will you do? The power is entirely in your hands now. You are the master of your own fate, community, and the fate of the hobby. Will you let your resin crack addict mate buy a Terminator they probably don't need, or will you try and guide them? Will you restrain yourself? Will you stop buying all 30k until you get a proper FAQ and the units you actually need? Of course not! If they release Plastic Solar Auxilia in 3 weeks' time, you'll snort that shit like cocaine off a Thai hooker's ass, because this hobby is full of people with no self-control who will actively work against their own best interests because the easy dopamine hit of an impulse purchase is too tempting. That's how much faith I have in the community at large. I won't lie. Prove me wrong, community. Prove me wrong.